Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan. And today we are doing the Arizona Cardinals 7-round mock draft. Ryan and I, we did a full mock draft, all 250 something picks. So these will be the Cardinal selections that we're going to be going over. But before we do that, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when more Cardinals mock drafts come out. We've already done a 3-round mock draft series with the Cardinals, and then we were also doing other 3-round and 7-round mock drafts planned up, leading all the way up to the 2024 NFL Draft. And also hit that subscribe button. It's the easiest way to help grow our channel. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the combine. So any help is greatly appreciated. So we wanted to include some context about some players that were taken before and after to see who all was available. So you see even a couple players on the right as well. Players we think that the Cardinals could take in theory throughout all their selections and where they ended up being selected. So here, this 7-round mock draft, we ended up going a little bit different route here instead of going the 3 quarterback route. So we had Marvin Harrison Jr. going to New England. This then allowed for the Cardinals to go with Joe Alt as well. They can plug him in at left tackle, keep Paris Johnson Jr. At right tackle, and then have probably the best tackle combo duo for the next decade and a half. Yeah. And so on paper, in theory. So Cardinals here, I think they're really dependent on what happens in front of them, because if they go 3 quarterbacks, I think they're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. If they go Marvin Harrison Jr. is not there, maybe they go Malik Neighbors, but I think then they'll probably end up going Joe Alt. I think he is a better prospect overall, in my opinion. And so there's so many different routes they could go. They could maybe trade back if they just don't like him and then still get a couple other draft picks. A team like the Falcons would gladly trade up. And then the Cardinals are still going to go get a phenomenal player. Olu could be there. Brock Bowers could be there. Roma Dunze could also be there. So there's going to be a lot of other potential options as well. So I know you really like Joe Alt. Why do you like Joe Alt more than Olu Fashanu or some of the other tackles?
To me, Joe Alt is the Marvin Harrison Jr. of tackle prospects this year. He's young. He's going to come in. He's going to be a plug-and-play left tackle or right tackle in your organization. He's the best combination of pass blocking and run blocking skills. He didn't give up a single sack this year. I believe he only gave up 7 pressures and like 3 QB hits, which is very low. And it would just solidify this offensive line. He's a great athlete. And looking back on it, maybe we go Malik Neighbors here. I am a little bit higher on Malik Neighbors now than when we were filling in this draft. But I do think that there is some risk there with Malik Neighbors. And Joe Alt, I don't want to be fitting him for his Hall of Fame jacket just yet. But I really do see a lot of Joe Thomas from the Browns in him. Just he's going to come in. He's going to be a cornerstone of your offensive line for the next 10, 12 years and just be a fantastic player. And there's just not much else to it. He is, to me, the most surefire prospect in this class, because even I have less questions about him being a all-pro left tackle than I do about Marvin Harrison Jr. potentially becoming a all-pro wide receiver. So I really like him as a prospect. And Olu Fashanu specifically is maybe edges him out ever so slightly in pass protection, but he's not nearly the aggressor or finisher that Joe Alt is in the running game. So I think it's a really interesting spot here. I do think it is a potential trade back spot. They have a ton of draft capital, but they have a second first-round pick that I think they could potentially move up into maybe the mid-teens to 4. So speaking of that pick, let's move on to 27 here. This is where we have them addressing the wide receiver spot. One of the reasons, too, why taking tackle first makes sense, there's a drop-off at the tackle spot. Right, there's not a lot of plug and play left tackles in this class, or really in any. And I think in the receiver class, you have guys all the way down to the 4th, 5th round that are going to come in and make impacts on teams this year. And going and getting a guy like A.D. Mitchell here at the end of the 1st round, I think it is really solid value. He can play inside and outside. You drafted Michael Wilson last year, who's going to be your traditional X receiver. Hollywood Brown is a free agent, but could come back and be that slot receiver. I think A.D. Mitchell would be a great complement to a lot of those guys because he can do a lot of different things. And he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Michael Pittman type, where he's going to be the bigger receiver that's going to be a little bit more agile. He's a little bit looser. Not necessarily just a sole jump ball guy, but he can move around and create separation and run after the catch. So I really like him here at 27.
Yeah, he just seems just a solid receiver.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. and Troy Franklin, they have a lot of very exciting
Mhm.
aspects about them. But AD Mitchell, he just seems like no matter what organization he's in, he's just going to be successful in
Yeah.
the NFL. I will say I do agree with you though. I think because their next pick is only like 8 picks away. This is a potential trade up possibility here to go and get a guy that they really like. And so let's move to the second pick as well. They're picking 34th overall. And I'm going on the defensive side of the ball here. I want Braylon Trice. I will say, kind of from when we've done this mock draft, I do like the edge position player here. I think there's a lot of other guys that could be in play here. Chop Robinson, I think he was selected 40th overall, if I'm not mistaken, in our mock draft.
Around
Jordan
there.
Ellis is a good spot. If they wanted to double dip at receiver, I would say I do think Jalen Polk would do really well with Kyler Murray. And so I'm just kind of spitballing out ideas here. So nothing against Braylon Trice. I do think that they will go defensive heavy outside of the first round, especially with their 4 remaining top 100 picks.
Yeah, I will say I do like Braylon Trice in this early second round spot. He has really good inside outside versatility, and with Jonathan Gannon, he likes to move those pieces around. But I think if you put him as the 3-4 edge, to me, I think that would be his kind of best fit, simply because he's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups with guards, and he's going to be able to operate in kind of some stunts that would allow him to be able to use his length and size to get after the quarterback, potentially get some free running lanes at quarterback, and also in the running game. Again, he's going to be one-on-one. He's going to be able to kind of hopefully shed some blocks and get some tackles for loss, or be able to stop some running backs. So I think he's a really solid player. I don't think he has quite a super high ceiling, but I think he's a high floor guy. So yeah, and honestly, on this Cardinals defense, I think they should be looking at a lot of high floor guys. So
yeah. Just keep building around. I will say then too, moving on then to our next pick as well. Kalen King, cornerback, addressing the secondary. He does have I think a high ceiling. He's been falling off a little bit. Didn't have the best year in the Big Ten overall, but I still think he is a solid player, and I think in a Jonathan Gannon defensive system, I think he could develop him. When you're finding guys here in the third round, I mean, you would love to try and find guys that can come out and start, but a lot of these guys are still going to need some development. I think Kalen King is a good guy to go and develop and take a chance on here, especially then as well. They have 3 third-round picks.
Yeah, and Kalen King. Anytime you can get a guy that at the beginning of the year was projected to be the top corner in the class, I think that's good value here in the third round. So, let's move on to their third round pick. This is Brandon Dorlus. Similar, in my opinion, to Braylon Trice. He's going to be a high floor guy, but he's going to play a little bit more. He's going to play at a little bit of a heavier weight. He's about 20 pounds heavier at 295 than Braylon Trice. And so I think that puts him more at that defensive tackle position. But again, this guy, he still really gets after the passer, and he's effective against the run game. And he kind of showed out. I believe he was at the Senior Bowl. And there were a lot of really good defensive tackles at both the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl. So
yeah, no, another one as well. It's hard to kind of spread out then like their positional needs, and then when you go corner, then defensive line here within I think 5 or 6 picks, and so I think getting him, I think still developing good depth on the defensive line. Let's move on now to the next pick as well. It's probably one of my more favorite picks that we ended up doing here. I think the more and more I think about it, I think Zach Zinter is going to be working his way up. I think maybe they could end up taking him in the early third round just because of that massive leg injury. We'd be talking about him as a late first round pick, maybe even middle second to middle first overall pick, just with his overall talent here. I think getting a guy like him, still bolstering up that offensive line. You'd have Joe Alt now and Paris Johnson Jr. Then you have Zach Zinter, who even if he has to sit his rookie year or just a little bit of time start out on the pup list, you still go get an extremely talented guy who, and otherwise you're getting him here in the third round.
Yeah.
And if things do pan out, and then like you've hit then on these past 3 offensive alignments or main offensive alignments that I can remember, you will have one of the best offensive lines in the league for the foreseeable future. And then to help protecting Kyler Murray, go and get a running back as well, which I believe that we will be addressing here soon. Just because James Conner's getting a little bit older, even though he's still one of the better backs last year. But still having a guy to create those running lanes, whether it be center or whether it be at a guard position, is going to be huge for this team.
Yeah, and he can play all three spots on that interior, and he's going to need a year to probably get back to be at full strength. But after that, you kind of touched on it. This offensive line could be one of the best in the foreseeable future if they hit on these picks.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the day 3 picks. Tyler Davis, he's going to be the biggest of the defensive linemen that we drafted, but he's going to be more of that true traditional 310-pound like run stuffing defensive tackle. But again, still athletic, still can get after the passer. Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State, definitely going to get another high floor guy, I think, but definitely get some help at that second level, I think would be really nice. Jalen Wright, the running back from Tennessee, has kind of been a sleeper in this class. This isn't a great running back class in terms of like top end draft talent, but I think after that, like at the end of that second to, I mean, anywhere on day 3, I think all those guys are going to come in and be solid contributors to the teams that they go to. And I think Jalen Wright is a very good, I don't say change of pace because I think he is an every down back, has every down back potential, but I think it would be a good change of pace from James Conner because Jalen Wright has a little bit more speed to his game than James Conner does. So I really like that. And then Ladarius Henderson, again, just kind of solidifying that interior of the offensive line.
Yeah. And then they have a couple of 7th-round picks here, and so we decided to kind of try and spread the wealth out a little bit. They hadn't dressed receiver in a long time, so again, a guy like Jaquan Jackson and Dallas Grant at the linebacker position, delving up there in case Tommy Eichenberg doesn't pan out. And then Renardo Green as well, safety. Just kind of trying to spread the wealth out because you're just trying to find guys maybe that come out special teams and trying to find some good value. So in general, though, I think for this Cardinals team, I think they're in a great spot with all their selections. I think they can be extremely aggressive to go and get a guy that they want with all the day 3 picks that they have. And also then too, actually just top 100 picks as well. Yeah. So they want to go and move up 7-8 spots in that first round. They have the draft capital to do it and not really miss a beat as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be phenomenal to see how they navigate this draft, see what happens with those first 3 picks. If the first 3 picks go quarterbacks, I would be shocked if they didn't go Marvin Harrison Jr. And so,
yeah.
But if he ends up going off the board in those first 3 picks, I'd be curious to kind of see what they do.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting. I think the Cardinals have a lot of different ways they could go. One thing that I think would be really interesting is if the Cardinals, New England traded the 23rd overall pick 3 or 4 years ago. For an early second and an early 3rd round pick. I think it would be really interesting to see the Cardinals potentially get 3 first-round picks in this class. Just another trade option there that I think would be really interesting to kind of see what would happen. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Arizona Cardinals 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you guys do differently? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.